All right, we are moving forward here. So think about what the percentage proportion is, right? And you've got the part. Wow, that's my handwriting just really degenerating here. Part over the whole is equal to the percent. That part was not me. Percent divided by 100. All right, so we've talked about how to find the part, and we've talked about how to find the whole. So now we are going to talk about how to find the percent. All right, and this, of the three different ways that you use this proportion, this is clearly the easiest. And it is. And I'll show you kind of like a quick way to do this. All right, so when you set these up, 16 is what percent of 40? So usually they're giving you the part and they're giving you the whole. So they're giving you one whole side of it. And then they're saying, what's the percent? Well, what's the percent would be X. So it'd be 40. So there's a few different ways you can do these. All right, so the first way is just to forge ahead and just do our proportion, our cross products, right? So 40x equals, and then just take your two zeros and tack those on the end of 16. And you get 1600, right? And then just divide both sides by 40. And if you have a little bit of number sense, you can, you can apply that to this. But even if you don't, you can do this with a calculator. The number sense is handy though when they don't give you a calculator. So that gives me 40, all right? So 16 is 40% of 40. All right, which kind of makes sense because if it's 40% of 40, if you divided that by 4, that would be, if you divided 40 into 10 different parts, right? Each part would be 4, and each 4 would be 10%, right? So 16 would be, 10% would be 4, 20% would be 8, and then you'll get up to 16 if you do that. Now another way of doing this, all right, is when you have a problem like this, is sometimes if you look at this, right, if you look at this original proportion we set up where you have 16 over 40 is equal to x over 100, you might be able to see a relationship between these two. You might go, well, 40 and 100, well, I multiply that by 2.5 to get 100. And so you might be able to say to yourself, well, I can multiply 16 times 2.5 to get that. And that's actually intuitively how a lot of people do these problems, right? And I think that's great. So to do that, you would just go, well, 16 times 2 would be 32. And then half of 16, which is your 0.5, would give you 8. Then you add that up and you get 40, right? Now, the easy, quick, and dirty way of doing these, and this is just when they give you the part and the whole, is just go part divided by whole in a calculator. And when you get your answer, just take your answer and multiply it by 100. Because that will tell you what the percentage is then. So I'll show you how this works. So you go 16 divided by 40 equals 0.4, divide that by 100, and you get 40. All right. Some of you might even be able to just go 16 divided by 40 and say 0.4. Well, I know 0.4 is 40% because you moved the decimal place over 2 spaces. The reason you moved the decimal point over 2 spaces is because you are in fact multiplying it by 100. So this is the quick way of doing that, but it only works if they give you the part and the whole. You can't do it for the other two methods that we talked about, but it works for these. All right, so I'm going to continue to show you this way, but with making it a little simpler in some other ways, just so you know, because that's where it's coming from. All right, and I like to stick to those concepts. What percent of 48 is 30? All right, so you have to figure out what's your part and what's your whole. So what percent of 48 is 30, right? So they're saying 30 is what percent of 48 is another way of saying that. So it's 30 over 48, not 48 over 30, right? So 30 over 48 equals x over 100. This one, you couldn't do that trick because it doesn't work out neatly. So this one's going to be a little messier, right? So 3 times 1 is 3, and then you get 1, 2, 3 zeros, so you get 3,000. All right? And you divide both sides by 48. So we'll take our calculator and go 3,000 divided by 48 equals 62.5. All right, now let's check that with just doing 30 divided by 48 and see what we get. 30 divided by 48. Yep, there you go. I think if I'm not mistaken, that's 5/8. But yeah, it is. All right, so let's now turn our attention to the next one. 15 is what percent of 12? All right, so this one, it's really easy to think, oh, well, 12 over 15, but that's not really right. It says 15 is what percent of 12? So 12 is my whole, right? So the way to write this is 15 over 12 equals what percent over 100, right? So if you can get this set up, some part of you should register that, okay, 15 is bigger than 12, which means that I'm going to get a number that's bigger than 100. So it's going to be more than 100%. So it's going to be, you know, a certain amount. And then some of you might, and well, I'm going to do the problem first, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how I would do this in my head. So you get 12x for one side, right? That for this. And then this one, 15 times 100 gives you 1500. Right? And you divide them both by 12. All right? Which gives you 1500 divided by 12 is 125. Now, I want to show you another way to do this. And I love talking about different ways to solve problems because, you know, some people come up with so many interesting things. And that's what's cool about math. Is I would look at this 15 over 12, all right? And there's a lot of information in here if we look at this. So what I would do is I would say, well, if 12 is my whole, right? And 15 is 3 more, right? Well, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So this means that this is a whole plus another quarter of 12. Well, what's a quarter of 100? Well, a quarter of 100 is 25. So it means that it's going to be 100 plus another 25%. So that's how you would get your 125%, right? I should put my percent signs on these. I've been a really bad math teacher. Percents, all right? So that's how these work. Good luck with these. I don't think they're particularly hard, but if you don't read it correctly and set it up right immediately, then you can get some pretty funky answers. All right, so good luck, and we'll see you in the application video.